thank you for 4 already. This is gratifying. And now it's 2. A very capricious audience, I see. I feel I shouldn't really speak until somebody posts something meaningful, so I could be waiting a bit. But I do have a lot to say. I'm very pleased about Telegram. I suppose I should have done this. I should have got onto Telegram a bit earlier, and I have to thank Facebook for disabling me from commenting for 30 days. I've served about half my sentence now, and have been occupying myself by going on Telegram, and I have made a few more contacts. I've gathered a bit more information, and that has all been useful. And of course it's a small community, and obviously I should have persevered after my last attempt. But it can be discouraging when you are almost immediately excluded from the chat. Not that I haven't been excluded from the chat after my interactions with the various people, and it has been put to me that I could be a bit less aggressive. I don't think I mean to be aggressive. I just say what I think, and then I get into the swing of things, and then it becomes offensive. Recently, I was on a stream. It was Snorkel Blog's stream, when he was talking with a guest about, well, the theme of the subject of that stream was the commonalities of woodworking and race. And I listened to half an hour of it and realised that they were just waffling on about woodwork, and I'm afraid I grew a little impatient and became intemperate in the use of my language, shall we say. And then I was banned. But since then I've been in touch with a guest, and have had a rather rewarding exchange. So the reason why I was annoyed about the Snorkel Blog stream was because it didn't seem to be dealing with the title of the stream, which was about how race is like woodwork. You know, other than the fact that different varieties of wood burn at different rates. And I thought, well, you know, we can always think of a different thing to race and say, ooh, it's different, as if we were making some profound point. But I was persuaded to go back to it, to listen to the rest of it. And really, it was about interracial gender relations. And if Snorkel Blog had titled it that way, it would have been more interesting and rather less annoying. So, communication is important. Well, the right way of communicating an idea is crucial to success. Now, should I have been as intemperate as I was in my use of language, I suppose it was a bit unladylike, but on the other hand, I have learnt a few new things. I have learnt that this guest is in fact half Chinese. Interesting, isn't it? What's his name? He's called Happer Perspective. And he was in Millennial 2 years in a row. But I don't think anything profound was being said by him other than, his desire, shared by me, not to see white people become a despised minority in their own country. I know a lot of people think I don't like white people because of my proposed solution. But that is only because they hate my solution. But I think it is necessary that it be discussed honestly and rationally. They haven't got anything better, have they? There's nothing anyone in the alt-right has proposed that is considered viable or respectable. Is there? I don't think so. And there has been no one who has been able to impress upon me that my diagnosis of the disease is incorrect. And the fact that they have collectively conspired to not engage with me is a further sign of neurosis. If my ideas are so stupid, then they should be saying, well, there's this crazy stupid woman saying this and that, and we know that she's stupid and crazy because her ideas are, well, what? But instead there has been a conspiracy to not talk about my ideas while not having anything better themselves. And this would tend to confirm that I am right in my diagnosis. That of collective neurosis manifested in collective denial of the nature of the predicament of Western man. So today, of all days, St Valentine's Day, we hear talk of war. Over what? We don't know. I think many of us are oblivious. Oblivious to the dangers of another European war, started by the Americans, because that is really what it's about. It's about America seeking to disrupt the supply of gas from Russia to Germany, and Germany, after decades of submission to American imperialism, has more or less decided that it is in its national interest to do the deal with Russia. What is Britain doing? Well, Britain should be more sensitive to its own national interest. Does it want gas to be more expensive? If you get that sort of thing, you will get overthrown. Any government whose populace is suffering from high inflation and high food prices is liable to be overthrown. So I don't know what the British government thinks it's doing. It shouldn't be submitting to the agenda of American imperialism and doesn't care about the British national interest. Too bad then that we don't have any politicians in Britain able to think in terms of the British national interest. I see Dr. Mengele, the Australian, is posting in the chat. Australians don't really understand how Britain basically sold out its dominions to the Americans. Technically, its dominions in Canada, in Australia, well, they're technically British. But a deal was done after the Second World War, to the effect that if you don't obviously tell us what to do, we won't obviously declare independence from you. That was a deal that was done between the British government and Canada and Australia. And now it's breaking down, isn't it? Australia finds that it has its own national interest. Most Australians want to prosper, and they have stuff to sell to China. Is there any indication that America or Britain is going to buy all the stuff that China would have bought? Now that NATO has basically forbidden Australia from doing business with China, well, Australians ought to have a think about their own geopolitical interests. However, technically they are still British. Their queen is the same queen as the British Queen, and this implies all kinds of subject status. That's why the culture is all the same. That's why British values are New Zealand values and Australian values and Canadian values. I see Dr. Mengele wants to blame the Jews, but he should really blame it on the geopolitical interests of a global empire which would predictably, naturally have a global government using policies of global domination, chief of which would be the global media. But Dr. Mengele prefers to blame Jews because it's easier. Perhaps it is because he cannot conceive of his own government and his own people exploiting people like himself. What can be done about this? Well, to return your society to good moral order, you would have to restore the patriarchy. You would have to ensure that the best people are in charge of the ship of state. Are the best people in charge of the ship of state? You know the answer. And if you want something, you must, well, form the intention of going for it. There is no other way. And when you resolve inwardly to achieve a particular objective, the next stage is to explain it to someone. You need to explain yourself to somebody because you need to tell them why you are doing this thing that you want to do. It is only natural to run an idea past people who may have a different opinion about the viability and the soundness of your proposal. Isn't that how problems are solved? And that's why I allow free speech. I allow people to post insults about me in my chat. Unlike the snowflakes who, well, can't take it. And these snowflakes are, well, white men. Speaking of which, yesterday I was listening to a debate between... No, it's not a debate, it was a pathetic discussion between Joel Davis and Keith Woods. I didn't stay till the end because it was so deathly dull. It was a discussion about liberalism and nationalism. Did anybody really listen to it? The chat was busy, but really mostly of insults, irrelevant to the discussion at hand, because it was mostly about what Keith Woods was wearing, the kind of beard that Joel Davis was wearing. Nobody understood what they were saying. It didn't matter because they already knew that they were against liberalism and for nationalism. But if you asked them what reasons were being proposed to end liberalism and how this was going to be done, you won't find a coherent answer. I don't even know if it was even discussed at all. But the fact is, Keith Woods, he even threatened to ban Joel Davis for making a little joke about him. And then, I suppose it was a matter of time before he threatened to ban me. And I left anyway. I wanted to leave because it was going nowhere. But what is to be done? What is to be done about, well, international relations and domestic policy? I can only hurry things along by joining certain Telegram groups, making my views known, and getting people to discuss my talking points. And my talking points are, well, I think most people already know what my talking points are. Yesterday it was very gratifying for me to see that in a discussion about secular Koranism, somebody pointed out, oh, but you left out this and you left out that. So there are some people who have absorbed the principles of secular Koranism because of my constant repetition. Dual citizen, we were in a Keith Woods stream. You were the mod, and so was Keith Woods. He said, if I continue to be annoying, he would ban me. That's a threat, isn't it? It doesn't matter. I don't care. I mean, he did say that, so I don't know why you're denying it. And he also threatened to ban Joel Davis for making a little joke at his expense. You know, this is just... You are just a bunch of snowflakes, right? There's no point even asking you people to man up. I mean, just no idea. Completely clueless. We don't know what the meaning of the word, because you haven't been taught it at school. Just no idea. Now, I did want to link this stream to a few things that I was talking about with regard to gender relations of an interracial nature, the subject being discussed by Happer Perspective and Snorkel Blog. So I discovered that Snorkel Blog has a Japanese wife and lives in Japan and has a half Japanese daughter. Very interesting. And that Haba Perspective is half Chinese and identifies as white, as being culturally white, shall we say. One of the more interesting discussions he had with, I think it was Millennial Woes, was that he would like to, live in a Hapa nation. And of course he wouldn't, because, he already knows that Hapa people don't necessarily all think alike. But he thought that white people kind of, have a more distinctive culture, and that was a culture that he wished to identify with, which is fine. I mean, that's kind of, similar to my view. But white people are in trouble, aren't they? They're not very well, mentally or intellectually, or morally. And I've said that the problem is that they don't have a moral system that is, in fact, functioning, because more than half the parents in their societies are parents of illegitimate offspring. And I'm saying that's a problem. And obviously a lot of people don't agree with me. But I'm saying that is a problem, and nobody has been able to persuade me that I am wrong. All that has happened in my years of political activism is, you can't say that. You mustn't say that, because there's so many of them. Well, that's not my problem, really. My problem is to make my point. And although quite a few people already get it, the point has to be made at a senior level. Otherwise nothing will be done. Nobody cares what morons and vegetables in my chat say. Right? Nobody cares. You are unimportant, not well connected, and anonymous. And you deserve to suffer because you're bumping along at the bottom, afraid to say your names. You are low status, low information, and low education, and because of that, you should expect to suffer. And if you're whinging, well, what do you expect? Ralph is posting in the chat and says, I cannot invade people's dreams, pestering them about your ideas that they have rejected. Well, why have they rejected it? Because they don't like it? All right. But then they're not expected to like it. I don't have to make you like it. If they were adult males who really wanted to solve the problem, they would have to consider whether my diagnosis is correct and whether my prescription would cure the disease. They're not capable of that, are they? They are infantilized, feminized, lost boys who indulge in their displacement therapy by talking nonsensically about things that are completely irrelevant. They can't even ask the right questions, let alone can't even ask the right questions. So that's why they have stupid streams saying liberalism versus nationalism. It's like, no. I suggested that the title of that stream should be I can't remember what I said now. Is liberalism in the national interest? I think that was what I suggested. or, is nationalism better for Westerners than liberalism? Something of that nature, an actual question, an actual proposition, but they don't even know what a proposition is, and certainly their audience don't know about it, and that's why all these debates are framed in this stupid, time-wasting, inconsequential way. Yeah, I don't mind being banned, it's a way of, leaving my calling card, so to speak. So when I've been banned, it will mean that they know I have visited. And that's my calling card. I am doing my rounds. The dual citizen says something about academic agent. Well, yeah, academic agent has quite a few subscribers, but it's just pretty mediocre, his stuff. It wastes a lot of time. I know he has to produce content. I'm not interested in producing content. I am about getting the message through. Ralph, you haven't given me any reasons other than, these sort of frightened, stupid men can't deal with your solution. The only reasons I would accept would be, well, there's a better idea around, Claire. Or you diagnosed a problem incorrectly because what you say is a problem ain't the problem. I'd accept that, but I don't get anybody even beginning to challenge my ideas in that way. There've been other ones like, who are you to tell us what to do? It's like, yeah, anybody can tell you what to do. You can't stop them from telling you what to do. You can ignore them. But why are you ignoring them? Because what, your injured pride that you didn't understand the problem sooner than the person who's telling you what to do? Because you're stupid? What? How have I strawmanned any reason? Bit of fighting between dual citizen and... Oh, I thought dual citizen was a mod in the House of Commons channel. and Ralph says, Christians are not allowed to be dishonest. I mean, come on. Christianity is the most dishonest religion ever. It actually relies on an outright lie and enforces the lie through violence. That's what it does. And rightly, inevitably, those subject to Christianity reject it. Why would they suffer themselves to defend a preposterous narrative if they're no longer burnt at the stake for not doing so, eh? Well, I can agree with Ralph about the Iranian agent having no vision. He's only interested in producing content because he derives an income from his channel. He sells courses. So what he does is produce long-winded videos that I could have said in a tweet to entertain the pathetic morons and vegetables who have nothing better to do than hang out with each other in the chat and not even listen to it. I mean, the last Okay, the halfway decent thing he did was host a rather acrimonious debate between Western man and Western woman about gender relations, and the man was very unpleasant, wasn't he? Yeah, it was sort of feminist, and a man claiming to be a Chad. What was his name? Red Hawk, and the other one was Birdie. Yeah, Red Hawk and Birdie. Such stupid names. Anyway, they don't want to talk to me, right? They're not going to talk to me because I have an idea that they hate. But beyond that, there is no valid, sound, moral, intellectual reason for not discussing my idea if they want to solve their problem. I guess it looks like they don't really want to solve their problem. They just want to whinge a bit. Okay, Jules, it's you walked away from from Ralph. I didn't know that. You always seem to be the mod in all these channels. I don't know the reason why you fell out with Ralph. Yeah, well, Ralph, it has evolved a technique of saying, I lie, and then he can't tell me which one. He can't tell me or anyone what I've lied about. I'm not whatever I'm known for. It's not for my dishonesty. Academic agent, I think has a Jewish grandmother. So I don't know why you would say that Jews are aware of his network. He's not. Well, I don't know. I don't think he's taken a position against Jews, has he? I don't know anyway. He doesn't talk about them much. Oh, Gary, I say morons and vegetables in an affectionate way. All right. I know I'm nothing without the morons and vegetables who come to my chat and use it as a kind of bird bath and only half listen to what I say. Conops has popped up to add his voice to Ralph saying that I lie. Well, you have to tell me what my lie is. Gary Connor seems to think. What do you think? What do you think? Imagine having a university education and being part of a political party only to bang on about the same old things 24/7 on a YouTube live stream before a group of barely 10 morons and vegetables. Well, that's what I want to do, alright? So, are you saying it doesn't need to be done? Do you dispute the accuracy of my diagnosis of the problem? And if you don't dispute it, then obviously it needs to be repeated, because people don't seem to get it. Alright, so my next point is interracial gender relations. So what Have a Perspective was talking about with Snorkel Blog, the other half of that stream that I was glad that I did listen to the whole of it after all. The non-woodworking bit was, well, I thought it was about race, but, really it's about culture. It's like, women of a different race in a different nation, behave differently, as you would expect, because they, the rules of their country are a bit different from the rules of, another country. So you would expect them to be a little different. But one of the things that Happer's Perspective said that made me prick up my ears was the fact that he said that a lot of the people in Japan, or was it Snorkel Blog? It doesn't matter, but anyway, the point was made that a lot of white men in Japan were, well, not the best. They were kind of sort of nerdy and not particularly sexy, and that they were kind of refugees from their own women, that they left their own country because, well, they couldn't bear the women of their own country anymore, and they escaped to Japan to, have a better time. Something like that. And we don't know if they, well, I suppose collectively you can't say, because some of them are just going to be not very disappointed because no Japanese woman would marry them, or they got married to a local woman and they may be happy or unhappy. We don't know. They may regret their choice. But I thought it was interesting from the standpoint of white nationalists who decry the phenomenon of race mixing. And this means that obviously gender relations are so bad that men, want to have sex with women of another race and nation, and the same with women too. And, well, that's interesting, isn't it? So I have said a long time ago that the politics of race is the politics of gender relations, but, people either didn't get it or just pretended not to get it. But what I also mean to say is the people who complain about white genocide, people like Mark Collett, they don't know what they're talking about, do they? Mark Collett is an unmarried father. So he won't be talking about abolishing no-fault divorce, making marriage a better bargain for men, because he doesn't want to marry the mother of his child, right? A lot of men are in that position. But then, if you ask anti-feminist men in this country to propose the abolition, to campaign for the abolition of no-fault divorce, they're not interested. So Mike Buchanan, who hates me, has no intention of proposing the abolition of no-fault divorce because, well, he's a petty little man, charmless, insecure, and he hates me, and therefore will not engage with me, or indeed anyone else. So the fact is, you have men in leadership positions who have, well, the personalities and traits of women. So you're not going to be able to organise a piss-up in a brewery, right? They have no leadership qualities. Yeah, they have a string of complaints, and they want to say mean things about the people they hate and the people whom they think are to blame. Jews, the women, the government, whatever. But my diagnosis is, well, socio-psychological and political. I explain what has happened in a way that can be understood by academics and cannot be falsified by them. But you choose to support your favourite YouTubers because they have a bigger channel than me. But really, they are cowards, aren't they? They are moral and intellectual cowards and snowflakes because they can't deal with me. And they are supposed to be adult men. But there is a difference between an adult male and an responsible male leader. And this you haven't got. Now all I require, I don't want to be your dictator. No, no, no. I just want to deliver my message. And for this to be done, I should be platformed on a platform bigger than mine. But Ed Dutton and Millennial Woes and, well, there's a third person, I can't remember who it is. Yeah, they're just too soy to have me on. I guess they're not, maybe, okay, I know Millennial Woes is afraid of Mark Collett. So, okay, well, I accept that. So is anybody else who's not afraid of Mark Collett? Maybe somebody who doesn't live in the UK. I mean, what a shame. I mean, I think somebody British should be in receipt officially of my message, right? But, if Colin is too scared to platform me, then, Ed Dutton, he lives in Finland. But he doesn't like me and he's going to be bitchy about it. But he discusses the same topics as I do. I know he's trained in theology. He's an anthropologist. Those are my areas of interest, but he doesn't want to talk to me because, well, why? Because I didn't think I was rude to him. I mean, I always start out polite. I asked him nicely. He didn't respond to any of my emails because I guess he never wanted to have anything to do with me in the first place because of my toxic solution, right? I'm trying to think of the third YouTube channel that I wanted to be on. I can't offhand remember. Oh yeah, Modern Day Debate. But, I'm not that bothered. Because the moderator, the owner of Modern Day Debate, what's his name? Kunz or something. Well, he's Christian, he doesn't moderate it at all. And, I mean, I really would like to appear on, somebody's channel who has a requisite authority to have a decent exchange, not people who are just don't get it. So, although I've been on Politically Provoked, and answered the questions, it didn't really matter because it was just, it's like children asking dumb questions, right? And they're not understanding the answer and moving swiftly on. And I was briefly on, I was only on The Crucible. I think I did okay. Ralph is going to be on. You're going to be on the 20th. Aren't you, talking about Christian morality? That will be funny. So everybody go and watch Ralph talking about his Christian morality on the 20th of February. And compare his morality to my morality. Ralph is offering me a Valentine's Day offering to appear on his channel. Yeah, alright, I'll do it. I love olive branches. I don't want to miss any of your comments, so I'm being a bit slow, because it's really about you, right? So it's really about the morals and vegetables in the chat. It has to be about you because, I want it on record, what I have to deal with, the provocations, the just boneheadedness, the stubbornness, the sin of pride, envy and anger, as well as lust, sloth, greed and gluttony. Oh, so is academic agent being mean about Jews? Well, he's often on Cotto and Gottfried, isn't he? And they're both Jewish, so they platform him quite regularly. I mean, I know they only platform other Jews, and they're really careful about who they platform. And Cotto seems to know all the rules, like, how far they can go and no further, and they won't platform me because they know about the toxicity of my proposal to make any Western nation a one-party theocracy, and I'm not going to... It's easy for me to hold on to that position because, the fact that they hate me will make my position clearer. So I welcome their hatred. The real reason why Jay can't be on is I don't want to have a pointless discussion. Okay. There is no point talking to people who don't realise they have lost the argument, and this is a problem with Jay, and he thinks he has principles, but he doesn't. Maybe he's closer to it now. Because what I found in political discourse is that you are saying the same thing again and again, and that the person that you're talking to is obviously bored because they've heard it so many times, but they still don't get it. They don't get it. Because by their behaviour, by their response, by their reaction, they are... I don't even know. I mean, Jay's not the only one. Obviously, he's not the only one. But I think maybe the best... Okay, I've tried this too. And actually there was a programme on BBC Radio 4. And I was a bit sceptical of it at first, but it was in the end it turned... Okay, it's a very feminine way of resolving disputes. So what they do is they get two people with opposing viewpoints, and they get the other to steel man the other's position. And that's a very good way of making sure that the other person understands your position. So to steel man a position means that you understand the other person's position, and you're going to make the best interpretation of it and bolster the other person's case to show that you know where they're coming from, that you know what their motivations are. So, for example, I think it was 2 days ago, I was talking to Vincent Bruno, and I did steel man his position. I know a lot of you think he's a terrible degenerate who wants to outbreed us with his homosexual breeding farms. But if I were to steel man his position, it would be that he wants to do these things because he feels being gay, he's not, doing enough to help white people remain in existence, and that's why he wants to think of different ways of breeding the next generation that won't entail him having to marry a woman of his race. So that's why he's saying, polygamous unions might be okay, you just put a whole bunch of people in one household and they can breed their children and it'll be all right. Just to take the pressure of himself, to marry a woman and pay for his stuff and pay for the children, which, basically, it is a burden, right? It is a terrible burden, and therefore men need to feel that they're going to be happy doing all that, and therefore they need to, love their woman, and she's got to be nice to make them feel they haven't been cheated after the wedding. So really, it's quite simple when you think about it in those terms. But obviously, people are disappointing, and without the abolition of no-fault divorce, marriages will continue to remain unstable, and of course, the economy has to be rejigged to make most men marriageable. And that's why I say the patriarchy has to be restored, and the only thing that I can think of that would work, that will be perceived as fair enough, is secular Koranism.
Yes.
Ralph says, the next generation of young Welsh girls seem to love non-white men. Yes, thank you for triggering this memory in me about the white genocide, which is feminism. Oh yeah, that's something that Happer Perspective said. That feminism is white genocide. He did say that, which is quite good. So basically, the latest thing on Telegram was Felix Rex, or Black Pigeon Speaks, saying, he tweeted this picture of an attractive woman, and saying, well, if there is war in the Ukraine and all these women, these Ukrainian women come over to the West, we men will be waiting at bus stations, clapping them and welcoming them into our homes, reminding, all the white women who clapped at train stations for all these, Syrian refugees that arrived at in their country. Well, of course, the men hated it, and he made a prediction that, these women, seeing the competition, will be saying that their particular Western country is full up, and that made that was a brilliant point. But he obviously complained about the feminists targeting him for daring to make such a point. So really, I was right when I said years ago. Now, when did I say it? I know I said it years ago because I looked it up yesterday so I could find a link to give it to Happer Perspective. Who is half Chinese. Let me find it for you, because I need to know now when I first thought of the idea. Yeah, it was a while back because it was It was on battlefields of love, and that I discontinued a while back. Yeah, 2013, that was a while back, nearly a decade ago. So that was what I said. Nearly a decade ago. I mean, you know, I'm really an ideas person, aren't I? And of course I should post it in the chat for you, so you are again reminded of my genius. And you should be grateful that, you know, that I care enough about you, right, to carry on doing this. So we can discuss that, Ralph, later. Yeah, the thing is, people will... No, well, most people haven't got a queue of suitors waiting for them, you know, so they can say, "Ooh, I want the tall one, I want the small one, I want the white one, or the yellow one, or the brown one, or the black one." You know, it's like, ultimately, we are just stuck with whoever is prepared to marry us, that we can bear to marry. I think, you know, that is the stark choice before us. And if we think we're going to get a better deal marrying somebody from another race, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And that's why gender relations is so important. And why it is so crazy that so many men are so neurotic, maybe even more neurotic than their women, that they can't discuss these things. And I'm trying to facilitate discussion. I'm trying to make my point, you know, but I'm faced with a wall of silence, because the men literally have turned to women because they're scared of their women, and they know that in a matriarchy they can only survive and do well if they pander to the female preference. Unfortunately, most of their women are not women of good moral character. But they dare not admit that, and so they prefer to blame the Jews. Okay, I think that's about all I have to say on the subject of oh no, I haven't. I've got something else that's going to take up some time. Gary says, "I'm under no illusion that us blokes within national circles don't represent British men as a whole." No, I mean, I think you want a society in which most men are programmed to think in the national interest. And that's what you want, right? Of course I want people to talk about my idea. Well, why not? Why wouldn't I want people to talk about my idea, particularly when there are no better ones? Left or right-wing morality. Now that's another thing. You know, it's like the left-right classification is incoherent and makes no sense. So the political discourse should be divided between patriarchy and matriarchy. because that's the clearest, starkest way to make it. Because left or right, it's like, yeah, people, left or right, can become totalitarian and have lots of bossy laws. But we're thinking of, well, who's it intended to benefit? So the right-wingers, people who call themselves right-wingers, always intend to benefit men and their nation because of it. Right wing is nationalism, right? And left wing is internationalism and feminine. So their ways of operation, their ambition are quite different. And the problem with women is that they don't really know what they want from men. And this is another thing that Happer Perspective mentioned. Well, not him exclusively, but it has been noted that women on the pill prefer feminine men when they are taking the pill, but as you know, they get a week off. And when they have their period, in their week off the pill, in their in the 4 weeks of their menstrual cycle, they will prefer more masculine men. But then that will be when they are not fertile. So even if they have sex with masculine men, they're not going to conceive. So men, by insisting that women be kept on the pill so that they can have easy sexual access to them, are in a way creating perpetuating the very problem that undermines masculine authority. And masculine authority is really paternal authority. You will have no control over the next generation if you don't stay around to parent your legitimate children, because your children will be enemies to you. In fact, this is a curse. Well, this is a verse in the Quran that warns you that your children and wives are enemies to you. And there's a verse that says that. I mean, that is really the absolute crowning superiority of the Quran, that he can say these things. The next verse says, but you have to forgive them. Of course you have to forgive them, because if you don't, if you're mean to your women, then what you'll get is future revenge. So the women will say, oh, you were so mean to us, and you did this when you were patriarchy, and then there will be this, this will perpetuate the cycle of gender revenge. So unfortunately, men will have to, take it on the chin and say, well, what do you expect? What do you expect if you go away for a few months and you leave your home in the charge of your adolescent children? If you come and find your home burnt down or if not, most of its furniture destroyed, well, it's your fault. It's your fault for putting them in charge and then denying that there might be a problem. So what I propose is that everybody accept the blame and repent. Instead of blaming each other or the Jews or whatever, just accept your part in anyone who has enjoyed the sexual liberation of the matriarchy will, is directly implicated in the predicament of Westerners now with their increasingly corrupt and incompetent governments who do not ever think of the national interest. And the great thing about Judaism is its annual reminder of repentance, because that is what the Day of Atonement is. So even if they don't do it, even if they don't learn from their mistakes, because that is the whole point of atonement, of this annual atonement whereby you apologize for your errors. Sincerely, of course. And then you cancel all the promises you made to God. And obviously you'll have to renew them, and you basically do a review, a year in review, whereby you decide which promises to God that you're going to renew and which ones you're going to let expire. And when you think of what a stupid religion Christianity is, then you'll understand why you have fallen behind and why Jews do better. Because they don't have a stupid religion that is based on absurdity and lies, making you, unable to win the argument. Using truth, logic and morality, you have to use violence to burn heretics at the stake in order to maintain your position as Christians. So you could ask yourselves why God permitted Christianity to be the religion of the past 3 global empires. And the reason must be to make the point that the sin is its own punishment. When you look at the predicament of Western man, knowing that he used to be great, he did command 3 global empires, and look at him now, afraid of his own women, and who are not the most attractive women, because they flee their own country to go to the Orient to find better women. And now he knows that the secular political ideology that replaced Christianity is now also kaput. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen if he doesn't make the only moral and rational choice of acknowledging that he in fact lives in a matriarchy? And therefore the solution to matriarchy must be patriarchy. And the only way of transitioning from matriarchy to patriarchy is theocracy. And there is no other scripture from God other than the Torah and the Quran. And obviously the Torah is too hard for Jews, because only half of them are observant, and there is no desire in Israel to become a Torah theocracy. In fact, if you look at what the Israelis are doing, they are as much victims of liberalism as Gentile Westerners are. Because what they're doing is importing Gentiles after pretending that they've found some lost tribe of Israel in, wherever, inviting them to come to Israel, converting them to Reform Judaism, so that they outnumber the Orthodox Jews who do have babies. So, Jewish identity is certainly very controversial amongst Jews. Obviously Gentiles think, and particularly the anti-Semites think that, Jews have this identity that is more solid and more coherent than the Gentile identity, but I don't find it so. So if Jewish identity is as fluid as Gentile identity, then I think we're all in trouble, aren't we? Because if God exists and has decreed that Jews remain God's chosen people, he just wouldn't be happy at the way they've been behaving. And they're supposed to be doing things for us, teaching us the Noahide laws, pointing out that, Christianity is idolatry and blasphemy, and, and saying that Islam is the most Noahide of all Gentile religions, and they're refusing to do that. And Muslims are supposed to admonish those who claim that God has begotten a son, according to chapter 18, verse 4. But they haven't done it either. So, I think, everyone's a bit to blame, really, aren't they? Walker's Wisdom asks a very good question. Why are white nationalist men listening to a foreign woman promoting Islam? You're actually listening to a foreign woman and getting upset. Well, I do have the biggest idea. And I just don't see how you can, think of an idea more antithetical to liberal democracy and feminism than my idea. I don't think it's conceptually possible. So I've cornered the market in that way. Leaving these white nationalists, struggling. What can they do? Other than propose the return to the worship of their pagan, pre-Christian gods. They're just not, it's unviable, and they must know it. Because obviously, for Europeans to adopt Christianity, it must mean that the pagan pantheon must have failed. There are reasons for it. People don't change their religion for fun. I know the resistance to the very idea, and what Constantine had to do to fully bake the half-baked idea that was Christianity at the Council of Nicaea. And do you think that he would have adopted Christianity if Islam had been around? I don't think so. So thank you for your excellent question, Walker's Wisdom. Ralph, stop talking like some Edwardian. I know this is part of your appeal to these undereducated plebs. But I'm afraid the age of absolute monarchy is over. Look at the British monarchy. Look at what Andrew is faced with. He's faced with being treated as if he were already guilty of a crime that isn't even a crime in the UK. It's not a crime to have sex with a 17-year-old. But if he is brought down, if a British prince is brought down on the accusation of a retired American prostitute, then there will be no justice for anyone in this country at all. This is something you all have to consider, but what I get from the British people I've spoken to is that they want Andrew to go down. They don't care about the rule of law or due process. An important principle is at stake here. Should any man, be he prince or pauper, be convicted of a crime that isn't even a crime, on the accusation of a woman not considered to be considered to be of low moral character, not to put too fine a point on it. So you think it's okay, if you think, just because you hate Andrew because he's a prince and you envy him, you want him to go down for this, do you? And when it happens, well, no one can expect any justice at all after that. And really it's time to tell the Americans that, we are not your 51st state, and if you want us to be your 51st state, you will have to invade us and officially declare that Britain is the 51st state. Because the only reason why they can, say that Andrew committed an illegal act would be to say, well, Virginia Giuffre was under the age of... Okay, what will they say? So she was underage in some state in America, right? And they're going to treat Britain as if the UK were that state where women of 17 would be considered underage. That's basically their argument. Like, well, she's an American woman and she was underage at the time that... Yeah, but, Britain is not America. Or is it? Right, there's a Wikipedia entry on that. So she was 17 in 2001, and so where was she born? Early life. Okay, so she was born in Sacramento. So what's the age of consent in California? I'm assuming that we're using... Okay, and we have to look up the age of consent in Florida because she moved there. Okay, 18. The age of consent in California is 18. What about the age of consent in Florida? So basically, Virginia Giuffre is saying, we're going to treat the UK as fucking California, right? That's what, what they're trying to do. Yeah, it's 18 in Florida too. Yeah, so the British are being asked to imagine that they are already, that they are Florida or California, where it's illegal to have sex with any female under 18. That's why she's claiming it's a fucking crime, right? And if the British don't put up a fight over this, well, then they deserve all they're going to get. Tinkle Tink has popped up to say that Vincent is his favourite streamer. Yeah, he's good for a good stream. Hello, Diana. Diana didn't get on with Vincent, but I thought she made some very good arguments. I think she might have been a bit cross with me and didn't stay to chat with me after Vincent had to go to work. Have I said all I was going to say? I think I have. A lot of German in the chat. Are we talking about the Holocaust again, Diana? I have something to say about that. Well, they should be, questioned, It's like, if you want to make an outrageous claim, you should be challenged about it. Jail is not the way. So I would allow people who want to make outrageous claims to defend themselves. And obviously, a lot of people say, why do you think that, isn't it? And that, okay, maybe that's what they want, they're just attention-seeking people. But, let them have their attention. Look, dual citizen, if you want Jay to come and talk, he doesn't get it about Christianity, and he doesn't care. He really doesn't care that it's idolatry, but he will pretend that he believes in God. We've had this conversation for so many years, so, if he doesn't even understand what I'm trying to say, he's not going to understand it now. But what I know for him is that, he will worship his own emotions and his own inclinations, and he knows he hates Islam, and Therefore anything else would be better than Islam. And he won't care about idolatry and blasphemy and, the logic of the whole thing. So if you do believe in God, you'll have to say, well, is it the Abrahamic God or the pantheist God? You see, so these terms wouldn't even, make sense to him, even though he was around when Jen Chaff and I were discussing whether God was indifferent or personal. So there was that debate that he wasn't interested in because, he's not an educated man. So the debate that Jen Chaff and I had was which God to worship. So Jen was saying, I reject the Abrahamic God because it's Jewish, and I hate Christianity, and I hate Islam. So that's a position, but she still wants to believe in God, and she believes that God is the universe, right? But she's a nihilist. She's saying that the universe is God, and God made no laws for anyone to follow. So, if you believe in that kind of God, then you might as well be an atheist and a nihilist, which he is, okay? So, I'm saying, if you believe in God, if you want to believe in God, if you want to worship a deity, you might as well worship the most powerful one conceivable, and that would be the Abrahamic God. And if you don't, then, obviously you're just going to obey the laws of the land to avoid punishment by them, and, within those rules, do what you like without incurring punishment. So there are only, two ways of reasoning. That either God exists and knows our minds and hearts, and that would be the Abrahamic God, or there are no rules, and obviously we don't want to be punished by the law, so we obey it or appear to obey it so that we are not punished. So that would be those two ways of thinking about it. Now, as for Jay, I really don't know what he thinks. Because on the one hand, he identifies as Christian, but he doesn't believe that Jesus is God. But when I ask him if he thinks God exists, he'll say yeah, but no, but maybe, and shit like that. So, I don't know what he believes. And he doesn't either. But he knows that if he uses if he uses certain phrases, a lot of people will be impressed, when he talks about entering the kingdom of heaven, before he's dead, he talks about that, which is completely nonsensical, but, it just means that, sometimes he feels good. So it's nonsensical, but the people who hate me will enjoy hearing him say that. So, I'm not going to be platforming that. So if he wants to start a channel to tell you about how he, while still alive, enters the kingdom of heaven, he can do it, but not on my platform. So Jay has not sorted in his own mind whether he really believes in God. So he doesn't know. So there's no point talking to him, because he doesn't know his own mind. What he wants, I know he wants this. He wants to be platformed by me on my channel. And that would be, for him, entering the kingdom of heaven. And he doesn't know his own mind, so unless he does, there's no point talking to him and entertaining his nonsense. So that's a reason why I'm not sending him the link. I don't want to talk to people who don't know their own minds. Ralph says again, Islam's just cut and paste parts of Judaism. No. No. I've said why. Now, if Jay had actually said, stuff that made sense, but he's LARPing as a Christian, but says he doesn't believe that Jesus is God. I mean, that's a condition of being Christian, isn't it, Ralph? I think you know that. So, I know that you are all using your Christianity or your cultural Christianity to say, that'll do, that's enough. And I'm saying it's kaput, and you don't seem to understand or be capable of a rational discussion about it. And really you don't care. You'll just be, using all these words that don't mean anything, and the plebs won't care because they think you're being, loyal and patriotic and Christian and traditional. When you know that Christianity has been replaced by liberalism a long time ago. And I won't talk to Jay because he doesn't even get what I'm saying. He doesn't understand. And if he's allowed on, he will think that he's won, right? Because he'll think that he's entered the kingdom of heaven, which is nonsensical because we don't get to heaven until we are dead. But he doesn't even understand that. Tell you what, Ralph, you invite Jay onto your channel, okay? You invite him on, since you're now getting on so well. You invite him on. I'm not scared of him. You can waste your time with him because he doesn't get it about Christianity. He will never get it because he's uneducated. All he will know is that he hates Islam and he prefers Christianity, and he doesn't care about idolatry because the logic of believing in the Abrahamic God is that you would not practice idolatry. And if he isn't capable of having a discussion about idolatry, then there's no point. And I know Christians don't care about idolatry because that is what they have to do. They have to practice conceptual idolatry by worshipping Jesus as God in order to be Christian. But you have a chat with him, you and your Christian nationalist associates, and I'm sure he'd love the attention. I don't know what you're saying, Ralph. 17-year-olds are still young people. I'm not denying that. What are you saying? So, I'd be interested in hearing what your position is on Prince Andrew. Do you want him to get done? Do you want him to pay a retired American prostitute millions of pounds? Do you? That's something for you to discuss later. I can barely keep up with the comments. So yeah, well, Ralph and Jay can, get together on their Christian mission to make Christianity work again and start burning people at the stake, if they don't agree with it. You can't find my article about the Wannsee protocols? I'll try. I'll try and find it for you. Here we are. Yeah, it's a 2014 post. Yeah, I'm sure Jay would love to be on your channel, so you can ask him to be there, and I'm sure he'd love to tell me when he's going to go on. Aaron Armyhood. No coherent point either. Thank you, Efren, for mentioning my proposal to ban usury, which would allow individuals and governments to default on their debts. And that is the biggest bargain of secular Koranism, and Connaughts would know that. So you should all be supporting me. Yes, I'm happy for people to read that article. I'm not ashamed about it. Yeah, Halsey won't talk to me because Halsey's a Jew who knows that I know more about Judaism than he does. No, Ralph, I'm not scared of Walker's wisdom. I give him to you. You'll have a bigger platform, won't he? Oh yes, usury. What I wanted to say about usury is... Okay, yesterday, I was making some point about Secular Koranism, and somebody said, "Oh, you left out usury," and I thought, great, he got it and remembered. Okay, I think we're coming to the end. What tune do you mean? Why do I think religion is logical? Well, if you want to keep your group in existence and apart from others, you need religion. Don't you tinkle think? Tinkle tink. It means you need a moral system that will allow the members of your group to, perpetuate the existence of the group through supporting marriage, which is eugenic. And the problem in the West is that it hasn't been practiced. It hasn't been supported by the government for half a century. So it would be logical, if you wanted to keep your group in existence and apart from others, to support the institution of marriage. So, well, I might have a listen to Halsey. Blood hunt is a YT sport. Blood sport? Do you mean blood sports, Diana? I think that's what you mean. Well, Halsey's basically an assimilated Jew. He's supposed to be Orthodox, but I think he sells sex dolls or something. So that's something you ought to know about him. His channel's always being cancelled, and he won't talk to me because he knows I know more about Judaism than he does, and of course he hates Muslims. So we might have the pleasure of seeing Ralph at Speaker's Corner. I'll have a nice lunch, Ralph. Don't get indigestion. Tinkle tink. What have you? What's your problem with religion? You just don't want to follow the rules, right? I don't think you're a married father. I just don't think you are. But why are you here? You don't like immigration, do you? But if you were a patriarchy, then you would be able to keep out all these immigrants. But because you're matriarchy, you're not. I think that's your problem. I'm glad to hear a little bit about geopolitics from Alan Bastard, who's just shown up. Alright, I think I've said all I need to say in this session. Thank you all for coming and being part of this stream.